Hey everyone, Sari here, and welcome back to another week of Light Season Offense matches. Zelgius' new seasonal took me by surprise. I was planning to skip the banner before his reveal, but I'm still really glad to get him in the spotlight again. His weapon is an extremely powerful option for an armored unit. Pairing slaying with unconditional multi-hits turns him into a devastating fighter, while the passive damage reduction and post-combat healing make him very hard to wear down. The scaling combat attack bonus and mirrored penalty for his opponent also give him a lot more firepower and bulk than it might look at first glance. Whiteless Luna is an excellent update to Black Luna, and I'm really hoping that we get a way to teach it to his older versions someday. The unpierceable multi-range damage reduction is extremely powerful to have, letting Zelgius survive even the most troublesome matchups while demolishing his opponents by cutting through 80% of their defense. The rest of his build is a bit more unconventional. While I'm no stranger to spoiling favorites and committing to offbeat builds, trying to salvage a base speed of 16 felt like it might be reaching a bit far. At least until I started mathing it out. Prime, Savvy Fighter, and Solo push him up to 50 combat speed on their own, which climbs to 69 with the visible bonuses and cross-map combat support from Gatekeeper, Milla, and Peony. That might still seem too low to be worth using, at least until his opponent's penalties start kicking in. Triandra offers another layer of cross-map combat support and can apply Sabotage to any particularly dangerous opponents with her dance. Combined with the penalty doubler from Panic Smoke and Milla's Sabotage, that pushes Zelgius to an effective 95 speed, or up to 113 if his opponents are unlucky enough to be using a visible speed bonus. With all of that speed backing him up, Zelgius turns almost every unfavorable matchup completely on its head. Whether it's winning wind sweep checks, quadding bulkier opponents, negating enemy follow-up manipulation, or punching through enemy dodge checks, he's an absolute menace on the battlefield. Stacking speed also lets him rely on his passive damage reduction, along with Savvy Fighter and a donated dodge from the dancers, to mitigate incoming true damage, while using Lightless Luna to blunt any threatening specials and pierce effects. Most of the base damage his opponents would do runs headfirst into his incredible base bulk. Together with his team's support and the various penalties from his weapons, Savvy Fighter, Penalty Doubler, and Sabotages, he consistently reaches over 100 in both effective defense and resistance. This support squad isn't quite an optimal setup for him. Ideally, I'd have a way to fully activate Prime without Zelgius attacking to activate Panic Smoke first, but they're still very effective enablers. The two Guidance Dancers and Ash offer the team plenty of mobility, even without a way to give Zelgius more than one movement on his own, while Gatekeeper's Warp Bubble helps prevent any opponents from sneaking into the backline. His post-combat healing stacks up neatly with Zelgius's too, giving Zelgius enough sustain to weather some really ridiculous situations. Now that we've gone over the team, let's get to the first match. This match was a fun one to see after getting back from Thanksgiving. The maxed out Valentian Catria, Echo skill and all, is really impressive to see, and her refine makes her a dangerous unit to underestimate. Their starting position is a bit boxed in at first glance, but baiting this team out can be dangerous to try. Edelgard's rally will normally target the Harmonic Catria, opening up a space for either dancer to refresh the Valentian one, which lets her warp past the snowman and into an unsuspecting back line. If things go well and both dances land, Edelgard can then use Catria's guidance to jump even further forward and start demolishing the enemy team with her extra actions. The team does seem a bit vulnerable to player phase approaches. Without a save armor to keep their front line safe, it's a little bit exposed. But we're not really planning to do that, and instead test this bolt trap to see if it's real. It is, and the 50 damage is a little intimidating at first, but I look at this as giving them a fair fight when we're planting Zelgius on a defense tile to tank their team.
Greetings.
Gatekeeper moves in to flip Peony back and also helps shut down any of their warp shenanigans from having a chance of reaching our backline. We can just move Milla in to help support Zelgius from a long range, and then watch the fireworks. I was a bit surprised to see Edelgard rallying instead of attacking into Zelgius. She does have true damage from her weapon, but I guess the debuffs were a little bit too much to actually give her 5 true damage to work with. Note isn't really a problem for Zelgius, and having her followed by Triandra attacking first is not a good sign for the rest of this team. And after this combat, Zelgius is already almost back up to full health after that bolt trap. Edelgard moves in here, and just barely gets that 5 true damage, which just doesn't really accomplish anything. And unfortunately for Katria, even with her potential true damage from that Astro Blade, she doesn't actually have more attack than Zelgius has defense, and it doesn't end up doing anything to him. And then we just end the turn with Yune.
Prepare to bleed.
And a nice full health Zelgius to wrap things up with. From here, we just want to reach the Aether Pots before we close things out. And thanks to some warp shenanigans of our own, that's actually possible on this turn.
Truly?
Dancing Zelgius means that we can have him warp past Ash after Ash warped past Peony to pick up one of the pods, and repositioning Triandra forwards lets us test the Heavy Trap and Dance Mill in to secure our second Aether Pod. Unfortunately, because of how the team is set up, we don't get to counterattack Plumeria and end the match here. But it's also not really possible for Plumeria to do anything to Zelgius. 2 damage is all she gets done, and he's overhealing after that. So we get to march him over here, and close out the match. This map was another fun one to see. Even without any merges on their team, they still present a really dangerous setup. The Dogger Note Pathfinder combo gives all of their cavalry units access to most of the map, and funneling the fighting into the central corridor gives Sanaki a much more consistently activated ploy. Together with Shamir's Panic and Discord penalties, the squad is built to crush any tanks that come their way, and it's not too easy to get on top of this team in the player phase either, thanks to the Farsight Corrin, their team's threat range, and their trap placement. I had a tricky time figuring out how to approach this one, not because of their ranged threats, but because attacking into Note to bring Prime online would potentially end the match before I could pick up the Aether Pods, since Corrin would be able to use Pathfinder to reach Zelgius. So instead I decided to not bring Prime online, and give them a free attack to start things off in the enemy phase. Sanaki takes the bait. While she can't do any damage in combat, this does let her set up that Dragon Vein of Flame, which Zelgius is going to need to deal with for the rest of this phase. Unfortunately for their team, they do still need to do some damage during the combat outside of the Dragon Vein if they want to bring Zelgius down. And Triandra moving forward to do 0 damage is not really a good sign for the rest of their team. Shamir's Blue Feud lets her get a little bit of damage in, and actually double Zelgius, but she can't survive the counterattacks long enough to get her second hit in. Dogger moves in next, and that doesn't really bode well for the rest of their team. Note can't accomplish anything either.
Such is war.
And that lets us close things out with Kagero.
I will triumph.
Things are a little complicated here still. I can't quite get Zelgius into the corner to lock Sanaki into place, so instead I decided to just tank her again. She will get an Iceberg this time, but it shouldn't do too much damage to Zelgius, and this gives us a couple of turns to start moving forward to claim these Aether Pods. The 2 damage from Iceberg just isn't really as intimidating as they might like. Corrin's swap does make this turn a little bit more annoying than I'd like, since we can't reach Sanaki to finish her off. But we can just have Zelgius tank her one more time. And now that we've opened up the path to both of these Aether pots, we'll be able to close things out next turn. Snucky gets one more free attack. This time she actually gets to do some true damage, since she applied some debuffs to his nearby allies. But it's not enough to really threaten Zelgius, and Corrin moves in and just heals Zelgius back to almost full health.
Such is war.
And from there it's simple enough to have Ash and Milla move in, pick up our Aether pots, and then have Zelgius close out the match. This map was another neat setup. Nifl isn't a unit I see too often, but having a flash effect in her weapon makes her a deceptively dangerous part of the team. A lot like Kempf or Duo Elise, it gets applied even if she's knocked out, letting the rest of her team pile onto the front line safely. The legendary Alm is also really impressive. His adaptive damage, pierce effects, and true damage make him an effective tank buster, and he can get access to a lot more of the map than it seems at first thanks to Tana. Tana's guidance is a great way to help the team jump past structures and enemy front lines, and her own warp effect and Kanto make it difficult to predict which areas of the map she can open up to her allies. Nifl made things a bit annoying to plan out for this one, but I decided to just let her enable her team for the first turn. Unlike the last map, that does mean we can have Zelgius move in and attack to start things off. After we dance him and Kanto Peony forwards, he can warp past her and take out Note. And, after we move Gatekeeper over, we can stop Tana from enabling anybody to reach people we don't want them to get to. This does mean that Triandra is going to be able to jump past Nifl and attack Milla, but she's not going to be able to accomplish much with that, and that's the only tile that Gatekeeper isn't protecting. From there, Nifl moves in to attack, gets a little bit demolished even through her lull attack and speed. It is fun to see Zelgius being able to quad someone like that.
Such is war.
But she does get to apply that flash effect, which makes it much safer for Alm and Tana to attack into him. Alm can get some true damage in there, but it's not actually enough to break through Zelgius' healing. Tana does even less here. But she does get danced, and thanks to Unity and not being sabotaged anymore, that means she can double Zelgius and get a Deadeye on this second hit. The Deadeye doesn't get mitigated since Lightless Luna was charged at the start of the combat and mitigated the first hit instead. But even with that, she barely outdamages his healing, and Medius considerately moves in to top him off again. Without Nifl in play, things become a lot easier to handle. We can just move Zelgius back and then dance him, and move him back forwards to knock out Triandra, and re-enable Prime with his Panic Smoke.
I will triumph.
Gatekeeper means that we don't have to worry about Tana pulling anybody into our backline, and instead we are going to move Milla all the way into the other corner of the map to bait out their other Triandra. Baiting Triandra forward onto this lake tile is going to make it a lot easier to box her in on the next turn, which in turn makes it a lot easier for us to reach the Aether pots before we close things out. Well, once Zelgius can counterattack Alm, it's not such a good fight for him to take. And Medius moves in next, which, like before, does absolutely nothing. And also means that Tana isn't going to have Unity online for her own combat. And without Unity helping to offset all of our penalties, she doesn't have a very good fight here either. And from here, it's just about making sure we box Triandra in before we close things out. Gatekeeper can help Ash test his bolt trap, and then, with a dance, the two of them can tag team forwards and finish boxing Triandra in.
Reporting for duty.
Peony can jump past Zelgius and claim our first Aether pot, and Zelgius can move over, take out this bolt tower, and get ready to close things out next turn. After Gatekeeper grabs our second Aether pot, we can use another little round of warp shenanigans to dance Zelgius and move him in for the finish.
Prepare to bleed.
This map was a fantastic way to close out the week. It's a really intimidating group to see. Ash, Asker, Citrine, and Hel are all very near maximum investment, and the 4 different Pierce effects on the team make them a dangerous squad to try to tank. Citrine in particular does a great job of enabling them, giving almost the entire team access to Breath, Formation, Rally Spectrum, and both Resonance bonuses. Ash and Asker's matching defense stats also let Soren turn them both into save tanks, making it extremely difficult to attack into this team after the first turn. Hel is a sneaky threat on the sideline too. Her remix means that she's got a lot more reach than her boxed-in position might suggest, even without Ash's guidance effect, and Lunge can easily pull an unprepared tank into range of the nuke train, while also giving Robin access to the enemy backline. The combination of Asker and Robin also gives them fairly consistent access to all of their specials, and it took me a while to figure out a good way to approach this. The combination of buffs and clash means that Hel would survive attacking into Zelgius, and the layout of structures made it difficult to get on top of them before their bonuses come online. Thankfully, some warp shenanigans of her own helped me find a way into this, and by moving only one space to attack Hel, we avoid having her neutralize her penalties, which means Zelgius can quad her and knock her out.
Such is war.
This does mean that Zelgius is going to get hit with Endless Feud, and means he's not going to have as much support for this coming enemy phase as I might like. Embla moves in first. She does get a Draconic Aura thanks to the Rally Spectrum, but it's not enough to threaten Zelgius too much, and Gatekeeper's post-combat healing does still apply even through the feud. Ash moves in next. She's the only one who has access to Zelgius thanks to Gatekeeper shutting down the warp effects, and she doesn't actually get the Cygnus here, which means that she's a pretty safe enemy for Zelgius to handle.
I will triumph.
From here, things get a little bit more dangerous. Soren moves in and actually gets this res check on Zelgius, which means he does get to double Zelgius, and have this half-piercing Glacies punching through his res. But thanks to Lightless Luna, Zelgius can survive it,
Prepare to bleed.
and knock Soren out on the counterattack. Citrine moves in next with her own Glacies,
Allow me to dazzle you.
which brings Zelgius pretty low. But he still survives, and the post-combat healing is enough to get him back into his 25% health threshold. Asker's the final one in range,
A new year.
and gets to throw a half-piercing flare into Zelgius, but that doesn't really do as much damage as the previous mages did. And from here, Zelgius can start to stabilize, leaving only Robin left to wonder what happened to the rest of his team. With only Robin left, things become a lot more straightforward, and we can actually close things out here.
Good morning.
By moving Zelgius in and dancing him, he can pick up our first Aether pot, and Gatekeeper can pick up the second,
Will be done.
for a nice clean finish to close out the week.
Like this.
Reporting for duty.
Prepare to bleed.
While the last match was my final real match of the week, there was one team on my friends list that I wanted to include as well. This is an adaptation of the legendary Hinoka formation, using Arian as a non-season locked enabler for the team. The combination of Sanaki, Lysithea, and Shamir also give the squad an intimidating array of penalties to break down enemy tanks, and together with Claude they represent a full-color spectrum of charging ranged units, with an even split between physical and magical damage. There's a lot of variety in those threats too. Sanaki uses multi-hit true damage and pierce, Claude has his usual annoying combination of Deep Star and lethality, Lysithea aims for desperation combats, and Shamir packs in Hardy Bearing and Fatal Smoke. It's a really intimidating squad to face, but I did want to see if Zelgius could handle a setup like this. Getting on top of the team to enable Prime was a tricky puzzle to solve, thanks to the front line of structures and mountains, but our team's warp shenanigans do make it possible. And once we have Zelgius warping past Ash, he can take out Sanaki to start things off. Ash can then jump down past Triandra and reposition her to safety, and Gatekeeper can move over to keep her safe from Claude being able to charge in and pick her off. Claude moves first. Null Panic means that we don't get to apply quite as many penalties to him as I would like, and means that he does get to outspeed and double Zelgius. But since I did apply a guard effect to Claude when we danced with Triandra, he doesn't get that second lethality, and Zelgius survives. Which means that he gets to start carving his way through the rest of Claude's team. Triandra moves in first, she has the least health to lose,
I will triumph.
but that doesn't really bode well for the rest of this team. Lysithea goes next. She does get a little bit of true damage available here, thanks to her allies' bonuses. But that's not enough to do any threatening damage to Zelgius. And from there we just continue going down the health chain. Embla moves in next and doesn't get anything done. A lot like Claude, she can actually neutralize her own penalties, which gives her a way to outspeed Zelgius. But she can't survive that counterattack. And, well, Shamir just can't survive these counterattacks anyway.
Without mercy.
And then Arian moves in last. And brings the last ally Claude has on the team off the table. From here, while this is just a showcase match, I do still want to navigate through this and reach the Aether pots before we close things out, which means that we need to stop Claude from causing us any problems.
I see.
Locking him into place here is a little bit tricky since he's out in the middle of nowhere and we can't pin him against a wall,
Like this.
but thanks to all of our warps, we do have a way to do that, and set Zelgius up for a nice clean finish next turn. And after Gatekeeper grabs her second Aether pot, Zelgius can close things out with another Lightless Luna.
Such is war.
This week was some of the most fun I've had in AR in a really long time. Seeing a wacky build like this do so well was an absolute treat, and I'm looking forward to seeing Zelgius take the field again in the weeks to come. I do have a Discord channel if you'd like to hang out and chat. There's a link in the description, and I've also got a Patreon link there if you'd like to help support the channel. As always, I hope you've enjoyed the video, good luck with your own matches, and I'll see you next time.